Have you ever stopped and asked yourself how much of your life has been spent chasing things that were never really yours? How many hours, days, even years have slipped away because your mind was tied up in the opinions of others, in distractions that never fed your soul, in battles that were never meant to be yours to fight? The truth is, most people drift through life scattered, unfocused, and drained by the noise of the world. They spend their strength looking outward, chasing approval, trying to keep up, trying to prove themselves, and in the process, they forget the one force that could change everything, the power of focusing on themselves. When you turn your attention inward, something extraordinary happens. Energy that was once wasted on comparison, doubt, and insecurity begins to return to you. You stop bleeding your strength into the hands of others and start channeling it into your own growth. Self-focus is not selfish. It is survival. It is clarity. It is the weapon that cuts through the lies you've been fed and the limits you've accepted. It is the decision to stop living on autopilot and finally reclaim control over your direction. The reason so many feel powerless is not because they lack potential, but because they leak it. Every scroll, every pointless argument, every attempt to please someone who doesn't even care is a small leak in your life's energy tank. Imagine what would happen if you sealed those leaks. Imagine if the same intensity you use to worry about what others think was used to sharpen your mind, strengthen your body, and build your vision. You would become unstoppable, not because the world changed, but because you stopped letting the world drain you. Self-focus turns chaos into order. It gives you the ability to say no without guilt. It gives you the strength to walk away from distractions that disguise themselves as opportunities. It teaches you that your value does not depend on how many people approve of you, but on how fully you use the gifts inside you. When your mind is locked on your growth, your discipline, and your purpose, everything else becomes background noise. You stop being a puppet pulled by strings you can't even see, and you start being the one who holds the strings. The world will always try to pull your focus away. There will always be demands, voices, opinions, and temptations. But the rare few who rise, the ones who build lives of power and peace, are those who master the art of bringing their attention back to themselves. They understand that the mind, once scattered, is weak, but once concentrated, it is unstoppable. Stay with this message because what you're about to discover can shift the way you live forever. If you've been tired of feeling stretched thin, of feeling invisible in your own life, of feeling like your energy is stolen before you can use it, then this is for you. Self-focus will give you back your strength, your time, and your vision. It is the key to breaking cycles that have held you back for years. By the end, you'll know exactly why self-focus is not just an idea, but a weapon you can use to win back your life. The greatest danger you face is not failure, but distraction. Failure can teach, but distraction steals silently. It keeps you busy, but empty. It convinces you that motion is progress, when in reality you are running in circles, pouring your strength into things that never move you closer to who you want to be. This is why self-focus must become your weapon. It protects you from the illusion of activity and brings your attention back to what actually matters. Every moment of true focus is a step forward, while every moment of distraction is a step backward. The choice is made in silence, in the daily moments where you decide where your attention will go. Your mind is the battlefield. If you lose it there, you lose it everywhere. Research shows that the brain has a limited capacity for focus, and every interruption drains it. That means when you give your attention away to noise, gossip, or empty scrolling, you are not just wasting time, you are weakening the very tool that could have built your future. But when you protect your focus, you sharpen it. You turn it into a blade that cuts through confusion and uncertainty. You begin to see clearly what others cannot, because they are too busy being distracted. Clarity is the prize of focus. When your energy is no longer scattered, decisions become simple. You stop living in hesitation because the path in front of you is no longer clouded by 100 voices telling you who you should be. Instead, you hear one voice, your own. And that voice grows louder, stronger, and more certain with every moment you dedicate to yourself. This is why the world often fears those who are deeply focused. Because focus is power. It cannot be manipulated easily. It cannot be bent by the will of others. It creates a mind that is free, and a free mind is unstoppable. Think about what happens to your confidence when you start seeing results from your own discipline. Every small win builds momentum. Every distraction resisted strengthens your character. Over time, your identity begins to change. You no longer see yourself as someone at the mercy of circumstances, but as someone who chooses their path with intention. Self-focus builds self-respect, and self-respect builds unshakable confidence. This is not arrogance, it is truth. You respect yourself because you finally live in alignment with what you know you are capable of. And yet, the temptation will always remain. The pull of distraction is relentless. But every time you resist, every time you bring your focus back, you prove to yourself that you are in control. This is the quiet victory most people never taste. They think power comes from dominating others, but real power is mastering yourself. Real power is being able to direct your mind where you choose, no matter how loud the world becomes. Stay with this, because the moment you commit to guarding your focus, you begin to separate yourself from the masses. You step onto a different level of life, where your thoughts, your time, and your energy belong to you again. Is where transformation begins. This is where you stop being a prisoner of distraction and start becoming the architect of your destiny. When you learn to hold your focus, you discover that most of what once controlled you has no real power. The judgments of others lose their weight, because you are no longer living for their approval. The chaos of the world loses its grip, because you have chosen a deeper anchor inside yourself. This is the shift where strength is born, not from noise but from silence, not from trying to impress the world, but from choosing to build yourself when no one is watching. That is where transformation takes root. The truth is, every person carries an untapped reservoir of potential, but most never access it because their energy is constantly diluted. They live split between what they want and what others demand. They chase one thing today and something else tomorrow, never consistent, never steady, always moving but never arriving. Focus ends this cycle. It consolidates your energy into one sharp point, and that sharpness is what creates breakthroughs. Just as light becomes a laser when concentrated, your life becomes powerful when your attention is no longer scattered. The human mind craves direction. Without it, anxiety grows. Without it, doubt multiplies. But when you give your mind a target, when you hold your attention on growth, discipline, and purpose, the noise begins to fade. Suddenly, the endless comparisons, the opinions, the pressures, they shrink in importance because your eyes are fixed on something higher. You cannot be consumed by trivial things when your focus is locked on something greater. This is why focus is freedom. It frees you from being a prisoner to the shallow distractions that once felt impossible to escape. With that freedom comes peace, and with peace comes strength. You stop wasting your life on emotional reactions, on battles that are not worth fighting. You stop needing to prove yourself to people who have no role in your future. Instead, you begin to build a deeper relationship with yourself. Every hour spent in self-focus is an investment in your own growth. Every boundary you enforce is a declaration that your life belongs to you. And every distraction you overcome is a reminder that your mind is stronger than your impulses. This inner strength builds momentum. Each day of focus compounds, stacking small victories into massive transformation. What once felt impossible becomes inevitable, not because life has changed, but because you have changed. You begin to realize that you are not at the mercy of time, opinions, or circumstances. You are in control of where your energy flows, and where your energy flows determines the life you create. There is nothing more powerful than a person who knows exactly where they are going and refuses to let distractions pull them away. That kind of focus is rare, but it is available to you the moment you decide that your attention is no longer for sale. Guard it. Protect it. Direct it with intention. Because when you do, you awaken a version of yourself that is clear, disciplined, and unshakable. And once that version of you comes alive, there is nothing in this world that can stop your rise. The greatest battles are not fought in public but within the quiet of your own mind. Every day you are faced with a choice, to let your focus scatter into the noise, or to pull it back and sharpen it like a weapon. The moments you choose discipline over distraction, clarity over confusion, purpose over passivity, are the moments you reshape your life. Most people never realize how much control they truly have, because they spend their lives reacting. They react to opinions, to circumstances, to temptations. They are slaves to whatever pulls their attention. But you are not meant to live enslaved. You are meant to rise above, And it begins the moment you reclaim the authority over where your mind goes. Energy flows where attention goes. This is not just a phrase, it is a law of life. Every thought you feed grows stronger. Every habit you repeat becomes identity. When your attention is fractured, your energy is wasted on things that weaken you. But when your attention is unified, your energy becomes a force that builds strength, momentum, and achievement. This is why self-focus is not optional. It is the foundation of becoming unshakable. Without it, even the strongest dreams collapse under the weight of distraction. With it, even the most impossible visions begin to take form. The power of self-focus is that it strips away illusions. It shows you what is real and what is not. When your attention is fixed, you start to see the truth, that most of what you once thought mattered never did. The approval of strangers, the endless scrolling, the constant comparison, none of it adds a single ounce of strength to your life. But the time you invest in yourself, the discipline you build, the focus you guard, those things compound and change everything. Self-focus reveals that the real competition was never outside of you, it was always within, and when you begin to win that inner competition, the external world bends. Opportunities appear where there were none. Progress accelerates in ways that once felt impossible. This is not magic, it is the result of concentrated energy. The same way a river carves valleys and shapes landscapes, your focus reshapes the direction of your life. Every day you hold your focus, you carve deeper into your future, until the path becomes undeniable. This is why you must protect your focus like your life depends on it, because it does. The life you want cannot be built on scattered energy. It demands precision. It demands a mind that refuses to be pulled by every distraction. It demands the strength to say no when everyone else says yes. It demands that you rise above the noise and choose yourself, not once, but over and over again. The moment you decide that your focus is sacred, you shift into a different reality. You stop living as a victim of the world's demands and start living as the creator of your own destiny. Every choice to stay focused is a choice to build power, discipline, and freedom. And the more you choose it, the stronger you become, until nothing can pull you back into the weakness you once lived in. This is the essence of transformation. This is how you weaponize self-focus and begin the unstoppable rise to the life you are meant to live. The deeper you move into self-focus, the more you realize how much of your old life was built on weakness. Weakness in the form of wasted hours. Weakness in the form of chasing validation. Weakness in the form of saying yes when you meant no. But weakness dissolves the moment you choose discipline. Focus is the cure for wasted living. It forces you to cut out the unnecessary, to strip away the noise, to walk away from everything that does not serve your highest purpose. This is not about being selfish, it is about being aligned. Because the more you focus on building yourself, the more power you gain to shape the world around you. There will always be forces fighting to pull you back into distraction. The world profits from your lack of focus. Entire industries thrive on keeping you addicted, passive, and weak. They want your attention because your attention is currency. When you give it away freely, you pay with your potential. But when you take it back, you take back control of your time, your choices, your future. Self-focus is the rebellion against everything designed to steal your strength. It is the refusal to be a slave to systems that do not care about your growth. And with every act of focus, you reclaim more than time. You reclaim identity. You stop being defined by the expectations of others and start being defined by your own vision. You stop being someone who drifts and you become someone who directs. That shift is where confidence grows, because confidence is not built by pretending to be strong. It is built by living in integrity with your own focus. Every time you follow through, every time you keep your attention on what matters, you create proof for yourself that you can be trusted. That trust in yourself is the foundation of unshakable self-belief. The stronger your focus becomes, the less you are controlled by fear. Fear thrives in scattered attention. It grows when your mind jumps from doubt to comparison to insecurity. But when your attention is locked on purpose, fear has no room to breathe. You are no longer asking, "What if I fail?" but declaring, "I will not quit until I win." Focus starves fear and feeds courage. It turns hesitation into decisive action. It transforms uncertainty into momentum. And momentum, once created, carries you further than motivation ever could. This is why the disciplined are the truly free. They may seem strict, they may seem intense, but they walk with a calm power that cannot be shaken. They know that while others scatter their lives on meaningless noise, they are building something indestructible. And you can step into that same power. You can decide that your focus is not negotiable, that your attention belongs to you, and that your life will be built on discipline, not distraction. Every moment you reclaim focus, you are sharpening your weapon. Every time you reject distraction, you are fortifying your mind. And every day you live in this discipline, you move closer to the life that once felt out of reach. This is not just progress. It is liberation. It is the moment you stop living as a passenger and start driving your life with full control. This is the power waiting for you when you choose to protect and weaponize your focus. Self-focus is the foundation of mastery. Without it, discipline collapses, habits fade, and purpose dissolves into chaos. With it, every part of your life begins to align. Focus is what allows strength to grow steadily, instead of sporadically. It is what transforms random effort into deliberate progress. It is what separates those who live in constant frustration from those who move with clarity and direction. The truth is simple. You cannot master what you do not focus on, and until you master yourself, you will always remain at the mercy of distractions, opinions, and circumstances. When your energy is directed inward, you stop living reactively. You stop waking up each day controlled by urgency that doesn't belong to you. Instead, you rise with intention. You begin to move deliberately, not because life suddenly became easier, but because you chose to cut through the noise and see only what matters. That decision alone places you ahead of most, because most people never make it. They drift until their days, months, and years blur into a life of regret. But you are not here to drift. You are here to dominate your time, your energy, your growth. Focus sharpens your instincts. It gives you the ability to sense instantly whether something aligns with your vision or wastes your power. You no longer need to overthink or hesitate, because the answer is clear. If it feeds your growth, you pursue it with discipline. If it distracts, you cut it off without apology. This clarity makes you dangerous, because a person who cannot be swayed by distractions is unshakable. And in a world designed to scatter your attention, being unshakable is the ultimate strength. But strength demands sacrifice. You cannot be deeply focused and still live like everyone else. You cannot chase every impulse, indulge every distraction, and expect to remain sharp. Focus requires that you let go of what weakens you, even when it feels comfortable. It requires that you rise above instant gratification, above cheap entertainment, above the addictive cycle of needing constant stimulation. Each time you deny weakness, you prove that your will is stronger than your impulses, and each victory, no matter how small, builds a foundation of inner power that no one can take from you. This power compounds. What starts as an hour of discipline becomes a day of clarity. What becomes a day of clarity becomes a week of consistency. Weeks turn into months, and months into an entirely new identity. This is how transformation is built, not overnight, not in bursts of motivation, but in the daily act of choosing focus over distraction. Every decision you make in alignment with your focus is a brick laid in the structure of your future, and the structure you build will either collapse from neglect or stand tall as the unshakable proof of your discipline. When you live with this level of focus, you stop fearing the future, you stop doubting yourself, you stop being torn apart by comparison. Because your attention is no longer scattered outward, it is rooted inward, anchored to your vision, your growth, your mission. This is not just discipline. This is liberation. This is the freedom of knowing that nothing outside of you can pull you off course, and that freedom is the essence of true power. True focus is not tested in moments of comfort, but in moments of pressure. When distractions scream the loudest, when emotions try to pull you off track, when temptation feels irresistible, that is when self-focus proves its strength. Anyone can stay disciplined when life is calm, but mastery is built in the storms. The ability to keep your eyes fixed on growth while the world throws noise and chaos at you is what separates the extraordinary from the ordinary. This resilience does not appear by accident. It is forged daily, through the constant act of choosing yourself over the pull of distraction. The mind will always try to wander. It seeks comfort, it seeks ease, it seeks escape. But you are not here to indulge weakness. You are here to command it. Every time you pull your attention back to your purpose, you strengthen the mental muscles that most people never train. Just like the body grows stronger under resistance, the mind becomes sharper when it resists distraction. This is why self-focus feels hard. It is training. It is conditioning your mind to obey your vision instead of your impulses. The difficulty you feel is not a sign of failure. It is proof that you are growing stronger. And the stronger your focus becomes, the more control you gain over your entire life. Discipline in one area bleeds into every other area. When you teach yourself to hold focus in your work, you find it easier to maintain focus in your health. When you practice it in your health, it strengthens your relationships. The thread of focus weaves through everything, turning scattered efforts into a unified force. This is why those who live with focus rise above. They create alignment across every dimension of their lives. You will notice something else. As your focus deepens, your tolerance for mediocrity fades. You stop settling for shallow conversations, for empty habits, for people and environments that drain your energy. You begin to demand more from yourself and from everything around you. Not out of arrogance, but because you can finally see clearly. You realize how much life you wasted on distractions that never mattered, and you refuse to go back. This is the turning point where focus transforms from a practice into a way of being. That way of being is unshakable. A person anchored in focus cannot be manipulated, cannot be bought, cannot be broken. They move with an intensity that others feel but cannot understand. They carry an energy that commands respect, not because they demand it, but because they embody it. This presence is the natural result of a life lived with self-focus. It is magnetic. And it is available to you the moment you decide that your mind belongs to you alone. Hold on to this truth: the distractions you resist today become the strength you carry tomorrow. The focus you build now becomes the freedom you will live with later. Do not waste your life scattering your attention across things that weaken you. Direct it inward, guard it fiercely, sharpen it daily. Because in the end, self-focus is not just about productivity or discipline. It is about power. The power to live fully, freely, and with unstoppable clarity. The moment you decide to claim your focus fully, you step into a reality most people will never experience. Life begins to feel different. Time feels slower, clearer, more intentional. The noise that once consumed you fades into the background, because you are no longer feeding it with your attention. You are feeding yourself. You are feeding your vision. You are feeding the higher version of you that has been waiting to come alive. This is the shift that creates unstoppable momentum. The shift from living distracted to living directed. Direction changes everything. A scattered life feels heavy, like carrying 1,000 meaningless weights. But a focused life feels light, because every action you take moves in alignment with your deepest purpose. Each decision has clarity, each step has intention, and that intention builds confidence. The uncertainty that once held you hostage begins to lose its grip. Because the truth is, you were never powerless. You were simply unfocused. Power returns the moment focus returns. Self-focus is more than just saying no to distractions. It is about saying yes to your highest potential. It is about giving yourself permission to grow, to build, to rise, without apology. Most people never give themselves this permission. They spend their lives trying to live up to the expectations of others, shaping themselves into what the world demands. And in the process, they lose the core of who they are. But when you direct your focus inward, you find that core again. You uncover your real strength, your real clarity, your real identity. That discovery is the reward for discipline. And once you discover it, you can never go back. You cannot return to a life of distraction once you've tasted the clarity of deep focus. You cannot unsee your own potential once you've felt what it's like to live aligned with it. This is why focus is dangerous. It makes you unwilling to accept anything less than growth. It makes mediocrity unbearable. It makes excuses irrelevant. It makes you ruthless with your time and intentional with your energy. That is the kind of edge that separates you from the masses. But understand this: focus will always be tested. The world will keep pulling, tempting, and distracting. Because distraction is easy, and focus is rare. That is why you must treat self-focus as a weapon. A weapon must be sharpened, guarded, and wielded with purpose. If you neglect it, it dulls. If you protect it, it strengthens. And the sharper it becomes, the more effortlessly it cuts through the chaos of life. Imagine living each day with that sharpness. Imagine waking up with clarity, moving through your day with intention, and ending each night knowing that every ounce of energy was invested in building your future instead of wasting it. Life is not a fantasy. It is the natural outcome of choosing focus. It is what happens when you stop scattering yourself across everything and start pouring yourself into what matters most. Every distraction resisted is proof of your strength. Every focused hour is a declaration of your purpose. And every day lived in self-focus is another step toward the life you were born to create. This is not just a practice. This is a way of life. The way of clarity, the way of freedom, the way of power. The highest form of focus is not just concentration, but alignment. It is when your thoughts, actions, and values move in the same direction. Most people live in conflict with themselves. They say they want growth but spend their time on distraction. They speak of discipline but choose comfort over progress. They dream of freedom but chain themselves to habits that weaken them. This internal conflict destroys power. But when you bring focus into alignment, every part of you begins to move as one. The energy you once wasted on resistance and doubt is redirected into creation and momentum. Alignment gives your life rhythm. It gives you a steady force that does not depend on fleeting motivation. Because motivation rises and falls, but alignment stays. When you are aligned, focus is no longer a battle. It becomes your natural state. You don't need to push yourself endlessly, because your vision pulls you forward. Discipline no longer feels like punishment, because it matches the person you've chosen to become. The struggle fades and what remains is clarity and strength. But this kind of alignment demands brutal honesty. You cannot hide from yourself and expect to be focused. You must look at your life without excuses. Where is your time going? What are you feeding your mind? Who are you allowing into your space? Every distraction that you justify is a crack in your focus, a leak in your energy. And leaks, left unattended, will drain even the strongest person. Self-focus requires that you close those leaks, that you cut away what no longer serves you, even when it is difficult. That honesty is what separates those who change from those who stay stuck. Once you embrace that honesty, focus becomes liberation. You no longer feel torn between who you are and who you want to be. You no longer live split between distractions and dreams. You become whole, unified and directed. That wholeness radiates in everything you do. People notice the difference, even if they cannot explain it. They sense the clarity, the discipline, the presence of someone who knows exactly where they are going, and that presence alone becomes power. This is why self-focus is feared by the world. A person who is deeply focused cannot be manipulated. They cannot be controlled by trends, by opinions, by empty promises. They are immune to the traps that keep others stuck. Their mind is free, and a free mind is the greatest threat to mediocrity. When you claim that freedom, you stop living by chance and start living by design. You become intentional, deliberate, and unstoppable. The decision to live this way is not easy, but it is simple. You must choose it every single day. You must remind yourself that your focus is sacred, that your energy is too valuable to waste, that your vision is too important to compromise. The more you choose it, the stronger it becomes. And the stronger it becomes, the less you will tolerate anything that pulls you away from your purpose. This is the weapon you carry now. The weapon of focus sharpened by alignment, fueled by discipline, and strengthened by clarity. With it, you are no longer scattered. You are no longer lost. You are no longer weak. You are precise, powerful, and unshakable, and nothing can stand against a mind that has chosen itself with this level of focus.